I thought you were mine, but you turned out to be someone else's. A whispered promise that broke like dust between trembling fingers. A dream I held too tightly until it slipped through my closed palms. A melody that belonged to another heart while I kept singing along. I thought you were mine. When your eyes met mine in the quiet evenings, when your smile seemed carved out of the softness meant only for me, when your footsteps echoed toward me like destiny choosing its path, when the universe felt small and you felt like the whole sky. I thought you were mine when you laughed at my shy confessions, when your voice trembled the first time you said my name, when the nights were long and you kept my loneliness company, when the stars above us felt like witnesses to our unfolding story. I thought you were mine when I wrote your name in every heartbeat, when every prayer carried your shadow toward the heavens, when I waited for you even when waiting hurt, when loving you became the only language I understood. I thought you were mine, but the truth arrived without mercy, cold like winter rain on a weakened soul, sharp like the edges of a broken photograph, cruel like silence after too many promises. You turned out to be someone else's smile, someone else's reason to wake up in the morning, someone else's dream wrapped in the softness of shared nights, someone else's forever, while I remained holding the leftover echoes. I thought you were mine, but I was wrong in every tender way. I was building a palace on a trembling cloud. I was loving a heart that had already chosen another path. I was painting futures with colors that belonged to someone else. Still, I hold no anger, only the ache of what could have been, the gentle grief of lost possibilities, the quiet drowning of unspoken words, the unnamed sadness of watching you walk away. Because love, even when broken, still leaves light behind, and your memory still glows in the corners of my heart. Even as I learn how to live without the warmth of your presence, even as I whisper goodbye to the story that never became ours. And so begins this long tale of aching truths, a journey through 1,500 lines of love, loss, and silent prayers. A confession written not to win your heart back, but to free mine from the weight of your absence. I thought you were mine, but I was loving an illusion. A shadow painted with sunlight. A hope shaped from silence. A dream stitched together by my lonely heart. I thought you were mine when your words felt warm, when your presence softened my storms, when your laughter settled on my shoulders, like a promise waiting to bloom. But I was reading meaning where there was none, searching for love in places you never placed it, holding on to gestures that were never meant as anchors, believing in moments you had already forgotten. I thought you were mine when your eyes lingered, when you stayed a little longer than necessary, when you asked about my day with gentle concern, when your voice carried the softness of belonging, but you were simply being kind, and kindness is dangerous to a heart starving for affection. Kindness becomes a rope that feels like destiny. Kindness becomes a lie my own soul whispers to itself. I thought you were mine when my nights glowed with your memory, when the moon looked brighter because you existed, when every breeze felt like a message from you, when I believed fate had carved your name beside mine. But destiny does not bend for broken hearts. It does not rewrite itself for hopeful souls. It does not promise love to those who love too deeply. It simply unfolds, uncaring of who shatters along the way. I thought you were mine when I wrote you into my future, when I imagined our mornings and our quiet evenings, when I saw you in the laughter of children unborn, when I held your presence closer than reality. But you were walking toward another heart, toward vows I was never part of, toward a life where my name is only a distant whisper, a faint chapter in your long-forgotten story. I thought you were mine, but your path diverged. Two roads that once seemed to meet now drift farther and farther apart, leaving me standing in the middle of everything we never had. I thought you were mine, but someone else held your heart. Someone else held the truth you never voiced. Someone else held the future I kept dreaming for us. Someone else held everything I kept losing. And so I gather the pieces of my mistake, all the hopes, all the illusions, all the tender lies, and I place them gently in the hands of time, praying it will teach me how to let go without breaking further. I thought you were mine when you smiled at me like sunrise, when your presence warmed even the coldest hours, when your voice erased the heaviness inside my chest, when simply thinking of you felt like coming home. I thought you were mine when the world felt lighter, when every ordinary moment became magical, when silence between us felt comfortable, when your nearness felt like destiny unfolding. I thought you were mine when I shared my secrets with you, when I allowed you into the tender corners of my soul, when you listened with eyes full of understanding, when your empathy felt like a promise of love. But all the while you were drifting somewhere else, your heart beating for someone I did not know, your dreams tied to another future, your footsteps walking toward another name. I thought you were mine when I prayed for you quietly, when your happiness became my only wish, when I carried your worries as if they were my own, when I sacrificed parts of myself just to see you smile. I thought you were mine when every night ended with your memory, when I fell asleep imagining your hand in mine, when the stars felt like blessings written for us. When love became a language, I spoke only for you, but you were never promised to me. You never said the words I kept hearing in my dreams. You never built the future I kept constructing in my heart. You never saw me the way I saw you. I thought you were mine when you stood beside me, so close I could hear your breath, so close I could feel your heartbeat, so close I believed the universe had chosen us, but the universe was silent. And silence is a cruel answer, a quiet reminder that love is not always returned, a soft echo of a truth too painful to accept. I thought you were mine when I fought for you, against doubts, against fears, against my own brokenness, when I gave more than I had, when I loved more than I could bear. But in the end, you walked away gently, leaving no explanation, no closure, no goodbye, only a wound shaped like your absence, only a memory shaped like a lost dream. I thought you were mine, but love proved otherwise, taught me that hearts choose where they belong, that devotion cannot alter destiny, that loss sometimes arrives wearing the face you adore. And so I continue writing through the ache, line after line, truth after truth, hoping that somewhere in these 1,500 lines, my heart will learn how to breathe again. I thought you were mine when you held my gaze too long, as if my eyes carried something you had been searching for, as if time slowed down just to watch us exist, as if the universe whispered, "This is where you belong." I thought you were mine when your silence felt meaningful, when your pauses carried unspoken tenderness, when the way you breathed between words felt like confession, when your presence spoke louder than anything you ever said. I thought you were mine when you remembered the little things, the songs I loved, the hours I stayed awake, the dreams I kept tucked behind my smile. You made it easy to believe that somewhere in your hidden heart, a small space was reserved for me, a space I longed to call home. But I was wrong, so painfully wrong. What I mistook for affection was only brief kindness, a gentle politeness wrapped in the illusion of love. I thought you were mine when you stayed even after everyone left, when your footsteps echoed beside mine in empty halls, when your presence filled the silence of long nights, when I felt your heart beating close to mine. But you were drifting toward another destiny, carrying promises meant for someone else's hands, holding devotion meant for another soul, walking toward a future where my name was never written. I thought you were mine when my heart learned your rhythm, when every thought found its way back to you, when I built an entire world around your smile, when love grew wild inside me without permission. But the truth always arrives, even if late, even if disguised in heartbreak, even if whispered through tears, even if carved into nights you no longer remember. I thought you were mine when I fought my fears, when I convinced myself you felt the same, when I believed hope was enough to plant a future, when I forgot that love requires two hearts, not just one. I thought you were mine when your eyes softened, when you stood so close I could feel your warmth, when you listened with a quiet tenderness, when I mistook kindness for affection once again, but you had already given yourself to someone else. Your heart was beating elsewhere, your devotion already spoken for, your dreams tied to another love story. And here I stand with nothing but these words, pouring line after line onto the page, trying to understand how something that felt so real was never real to you at all. I thought you were mine, and that mistake has become my longest sorrow, my deepest ache, my quietest heartbreak. But still I write, because sometimes the only way to survive love is to let the ink carry what the heart can no longer hold. I thought you were mine when you spoke with softness, when every word you gave me felt touched with meaning, when your voice carried warmth even on the coldest days, when I believed affection lived quietly between your syllables. I thought you were mine when you walked beside me slowly, matching your steps with mine, letting the world fade around us, as if those shared moments were sacred to you too. I thought you were mine when you held my mistakes gently, when you understood the parts of me no one else tried to see, when you wiped away my trembling doubts with kindness, when you made me feel like I mattered. But all along, you were drifting beyond my reach. Your heart tied to someone whose name I never knew. Your soul already promised in whispers I never heard. Your future growing in a direction where I did not exist. I thought you were mine when I found comfort in your presence, when your shadow beside mine felt like protection, when your laughter scattered light into my darkness, when I believed love was quietly blooming between us. But I mistook familiarity for fate. I mistook gentleness for loyalty. I mistook brief moments for lifelong promises. I mistook your kindness for the love I was hungry for. I thought you were mine when my heart beat faster at your touch, when even your silence felt like a message meant only for me, when your absence felt heavy enough to break me, when your name became the echo of every unspoken prayer. But you were never mine to lose, never mine to hold, never mine to claim, never mine in any way that mattered. I thought you were mine when I stayed awake thinking of you, when I replayed memories like sacred stories, when I whispered wishes into the night sky, hoping the universe would bend and bring you closer. But the universe does not change for one heart, nor does destiny rewrite itself for a single wish. Love does not grow where it is not planted, and hearts do not stay where they never belonged. I thought you were mine when I defended you to myself, when I excused your distance, when I justified your silence, when I believed patience would turn your affection toward me. But patience cannot turn someone else's heart. Devotion cannot win a battle already lost. Hope cannot rewrite reality, and love cannot grow from a heart that beats for another. I thought you were mine, and that belief became both my strength and my undoing, the light that carried me forward, and the weight that shattered me in the end. Still, I write, because these lines are all I have left, of a love that never belonged to me, of a dream that lived only in my fragile heart. I thought you were mine when I felt your presence in every heartbeat, when your name became the rhythm behind my thoughts, when every road I walked seemed to lead back to you, when my soul leaned toward you as if you were its true north. I thought you were mine when your smile felt like a promise, when the softness in your eyes made me believe in miracles, when your warmth felt like a shelter from the storms inside me, when even your absence felt filled with meaning. I thought you were mine when I shared pieces of my past, when I trusted you with wounds I had never shown, when you listened with tender silence, as if your heart understood without needing words. But the truth broke through eventually. You were never meant to stay in my arms, never destined to share my tomorrows, never mine beyond the fragile hope I carried. I thought you were mine when I imagined a life with you, a home built of gentle mornings and peaceful nights, a future where your laughter lived in every corner, a world where your love filled the empty spaces in me. But the future I dreamed was not the future you saw. You were already walking toward another story, already holding another hand in your heart, already loving someone I could never replace. I thought you were mine when I waited for your messages, checking my phone like a sacred ritual, hoping for words that would pull me closer, praying your silence meant something tender. But while I was waiting for your affection, you were giving your heart to someone else. You were choosing a path that did not include me. You were building a world where I was only a forgotten thought. I thought you were mine when my heart clung to hope, when I believed feelings could change destiny, when I convinced myself love was patient enough to win, when I forgot that love is not earned by longing. I thought you were mine when I tried to let you go, but failed every time your memory returned, every time your shadow passed through my thoughts, every time my heart whispered your name without permission. But letting go is not a straight line. It is a circle of remembering and forgetting, a storm that returns just when you think it's gone, a wound that heals slowly, breath by breath. I thought you were mine, and maybe that is my greatest heartbreak. Not that you left, but that you were never truly here. Still, I write these endless lines, because somewhere between the words, I am learning how to accept the truth, how to set free what was never mine to hold. I thought you were mine when your shadow fell beside mine, when our footsteps matched as if guided by the same rhythm, when the world blurred in the background, and only you remained clear in my view. I thought you were mine when your laughter reached me first, when it wrapped around my sadness like a warm blanket, when it made me believe happiness had finally chosen my heart, when it felt like you were a miracle I didn't deserve. I thought you were mine when we spoke without speaking, when our silences were filled with invisible understanding, when the quiet between us felt like a place we both belonged, when even the unsaid felt beautifully complete. I thought you were mine when you treated me gently, not out of pity, not out of duty, but with a softness reserved for someone important, someone cherished, someone I hoped was me. But your gentleness was not love. It was who you were, not what you felt, a kindness that fooled my wounded heart, a kindness that I misread as devotion. I thought you were mine when I saw the way you listened, as if my voice mattered, as if my stories carried weight, as if my emotions deserved a home in your heart. But while I was opening my soul, you were guarding yours for someone else, keeping your deepest tenderness for the one you had chosen long before I arrived. I thought you were mine when your words comforted me, when you told me I mattered, when you reassured me on days I crumbled, when your presence kept me from breaking completely. But I didn't realize those were borrowed moments, temporary havens not meant to last, fragments of kindness not meant for eternity, touches of warmth destined to fade too soon. I thought you were mine when I prayed for your happiness, when I asked the universe to keep you safe, when I wished for your joy even more than my own, when loving you felt like my life's only purpose. But loving you alone was never enough. It could not pull your heart toward mine, could not rewrite the choices you had already made, could not make you stay where you never belonged. I thought you were mine when I saw forever in your eyes, when I painted tomorrows with the colors of your smile, when I imagined your hand holding mine through every storm, when I built dreams that were never destined to come true, but forever was already reserved for someone else. Your future had another name written into it. Your loyalty belonged to another soul. Your heart was never mine to claim. I thought you were mine, a belief that lived so loudly inside me that I forgot to listen to the quiet truth. You were never holding me the way I held you. Still, I keep writing these lines, not to bring you back, not to change what cannot be changed, but to free the ache that lived too long inside me. I thought you were mine when you stood beside me in the rain, when the cold drops touched our skin. Yet your presence made everything warm, as if the storm outside could never reach the storm inside me. I thought you were mine when you said my name softly, as if it carried weight, as if it meant something to you, as if you were afraid to break the fragile world between us. I thought you were mine when your eyes lingered too long, searching my face as though you saw something precious, something worth holding, something worth choosing. I thought you were mine when I felt safe around you, when your silence comforted me more than words ever could, when your nearness eased the heaviness I kept hidden, when your existence made my pain feel less lonely. But safety is not love, and comfort is not commitment, and closeness is not belonging, not when the heart has already chosen another. I thought you were mine when you shared pieces of yourself, stories you didn't tell others, memories you whispered only once, fears you didn't hide from me. I took those confessions as signs of trust, as tokens of intimacy, as hints of a deeper bond, as proof that maybe I mattered too. But your sharing was not an invitation, not a promise, not a pledge of closeness, just moments of honesty with no future attached. I thought you were mine when your absence hurt more than your presence healed, when missing you became a daily ache, when thinking of you brought both comfort and torment, when loving you became a habit I couldn't break. But you were living a life far from mine, writing a story where my name did not appear, loving someone whose heart held your reflection, belonging to a world I could never enter. I thought you were mine when I saw signs everywhere, in songs, in sunsets, in the quiet corners of the day, in every whisper of the breeze. Love makes the world speak in riddles, makes coincidences feel like destiny, makes hope grow like wildflowers in barren soil, makes illusions look like truths. I thought you were mine when I cried for you in secret, when my tears carried your name, when my pillow held the confessions I never spoke, when the night listened to the ache I couldn't say aloud. But tears do not bind two hearts, and longing does not create love, and devotion does not guarantee a place in someone's life. I thought you were mine when all I wanted was you, when all I dreamed of was you, when every heartbeat whispered you, when every wish carried your face. But wishes rarely become reality, and sometimes the person you choose will never look back at you, will never hold the same dream. I thought you were mine, a belief that lived longer than reason, louder than truth, stronger than reality. But now I write these lines to ease the ache that still breathes inside me, to let the truth settle gently in my chest, to finally accept what my heart fought so long to deny. I thought you were mine when we laughed together, when joy came so naturally between us, when the world felt lighter in your presence, when my heart forgot how to be sad whenever you smiled. I thought you were mine when you listened with real attention, when you paused your world to understand mine, when you held my emotions with gentle hands, when you made me believe I mattered more than I did. I thought you were mine when your tenderness felt personal, when your gestures seemed too warm to be casual, when your eyes brightened at my arrival, when your voice softened whenever you spoke to me. But tenderness is not a vow, and warmth does not guarantee love, and attention does not mean loyalty, not when someone else owns the space inside your heart. I thought you were mine when I felt a pull toward you, a magnetic thread tying my soul to yours, an invisible force drawing me closer, a longing that refused to quiet down. But longing is one-sided. It grows in the heart that feels too deeply. It echoes only where love is unreturned. It becomes a burden when it is not shared. I thought you were mine when I protected your name, when I defended you even in your absence, when I held your image above every doubt, when I believed you would never choose to hurt me. But hearts make their own choices, often without fairness, often without explanation, often without pausing to consider who may shatter along the way. I thought you were mine when I saw how gentle you were, how graceful your kindness, how pure your intentions seemed, how effortlessly you made me believe in love again. But that kindness belonged to everyone, not just to me, not to my heart alone, not in the way I imagined or hoped. I thought you were mine when my world revolved around you, when your happiness became my priority, when your silence felt like a storm, when your presence felt like peace. But you were building a world where I did not fit, walking a path where my footsteps never mattered, loving someone whose heart answered your name, choosing a story where I was merely a forgotten page. I thought you were mine when I tried to let you go, but found myself returning to your memories, retracing moments I never should have held on to, clinging to echoes that had already faded. I thought you were mine when forgiveness came easily, when I excused your distance, when I softened the truth to protect my hope, when I believed the best of you even when it hurt me. But forgiveness cannot rewrite reality, and patience cannot create love, and hope cannot change someone else's choices. I thought you were mine when I whispered your name like a prayer, softly, desperately, honestly, asking the universe to hear me, to give me at least a small space in your heart. But prayers are not commands, and hearts do not move by force, and destiny does not bend for a single wish. I thought you were mine, an echo I carried too long, a dream I should have woken from sooner, a belief that lived in me long after it died in the truth. Yet here I am, still writing, still healing, still learning to live without a love that was never mine to begin with. I thought you were mine when your presence steadied my world, when every doubt quieted the moment you appeared, when even my fears felt smaller beside you, when I believed your existence was the answer to my chaos. I thought you were mine when you remembered the tiny details, the songs I hummed absent-mindedly, the way I held my cup when I was nervous, the stories I shared only once, the silences I thought no one noticed. Each detail felt like proof, like evidence of something deeper, something growing quietly between us, something real enough to trust. But I was wrong. You remembered because you are gentle, not because you were choosing me, not because you were falling for me, not because your heart was opening. I thought you were mine when your words softened my sadness, when you told me everything would be all right, when your presence felt like a shelter, when your encouragement felt like love disguised. But your comfort was a kindness, not a commitment, a momentary warmth, not a forever promise. I thought you were mine when the world dimmed around us, when the way you looked at me felt too deep to be casual, when your eyes seemed to say the things your lips never dared, when every second with you felt heavy with meaning. But meaning is often created by the heart that hopes too much, often imagined by the soul that yearns for connection, often painted by dreams, not by reality. I thought you were mine when I held on to every memory, when I placed your smile in the safest corner of my heart, when I replayed your words until they felt like truth, when I kept your presence alive in my imagination. But memories cannot form promises. They cannot build futures. They cannot hold hearts together. I thought you were mine when I saw how beautiful we could be. Two souls walking side by side, two hearts beating in harmony, two futures merging into one story. But the future you saw had another hand intertwined with yours, another voice calling your name, another love written into your destiny. I thought you were mine when I tried to move on, but found myself trapped in the echoes of our almost, the echoes of what never became, the echoes of everything I wished for but never received. Letting go felt like tearing pieces from my chest, like learning to breathe again without you, like breaking every day just to heal again at night, like fighting a battle I never wanted to fight. I thought you were mine when I misunderstood your kindness, when I mistook your attention for affection, when I believed in a future you never saw, when I loved you far beyond reason. But now the truth stands quietly before me. You were never mine. Not in the past, not in the present, not in the story I wrote for us. Still I write these lines, because heartbreak teaches in whispers, because healing begins in honesty, because every word brings me closer to accepting the love that never belonged to me.